Listen to what is happening in Ghana.
But the central bank is only supplying about $100 million in foreign exchange options to oil distributors in the country to import fuel. Previously, oil marketing companies plugged the gap by raising the rest of the money from the black market, but the deficit is now too big.
There is a fuel shortage in Ghana because of a shortage of foreign currency in Ghana, and their local currency, they said, is falling, and they're saying it is fueled by the war in Ukraine. And just before this, something positive that President Putin says that he is going to focus on trade with the BRICS nations, providing oil, gas, and other items that Russia produces first to China, India, South Africa, Brazil, which is a good move from Russia. And unlike what is happening with South Africa and the French is another story. I want to speak about all these things at the same time.
A delegation of French business leaders is in town to explore investment opportunities in South Africa and Southern Africa. France has a history of business and trade relations with South Africa. South Africa is France's leading economic and trade partner in sub-Saharan Africa. It is ranked 11th in foreign direct investment into the country. France says it is ready to invest more into the South African economy.
During this very difficult COVID period, we know that the French companies have kept investing and looking at Southern Africa
The French companies.
as a major opportunity for business. You may remember.
One thing I can say is in Africa, wherever there is France, it is always followed by blood, pain, by all sorts of troubles to African people.
Teamed up and pledged significant amounts of tangible investments.
They come here with their French accent, so-called romantic accent, but all I see is pain all over Africa. Look at Mozambique. Total is in Mozambique, in the Cabora, Bassa, Palma City. People who have been displaced there because of a French company came. Look at Nigeria. Look at the whole francophone countries in Africa. Look at DRC. Everywhere where the French go, there's always misery that comes afterwards. Well, you see, you can say a lot of things about colonization, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. But the British colonized Africa also. But you can see that there is a semblance of peace and order wherever the British colonized and they've left. But wherever the French colonized, there is no order at all. Today we're talking about French-South African ties. I don't even know what good is going to come from those ties. Because France does not look at Africans as partners. France looks at us, Africa, with a condescending look. They look at us with the intention of abusing us. They see us as subhumans in Cabora, Bassa, in Mozambique, because they want one of the world's largest reserves of gas. So the local people, the local Mozambicans, must flee from their homes. There must be no peace there. Do you know why they do that? So that they can extract the resources for cents on the dollar. Why is there wars in DRC? It's the same thing. Why is no stability in Central African Republic, in South Sudan, in Chad, in Niger, in Mali, we can talk about even Guinea-Bissau. Okay, Guinea-Bissau isn't. All those countries there, those francophone countries, Sierra Leone, there is no peace there. These countries are rich in natural resources, yet there is suffering. And it is the French that is taking advantage of those natural resources. French is getting richer and richer. Now they have a conversation with South Africa. I do not know what South Africa has any business with France, for all I care. Anyway, we started talking about Vladimir Putin and that he is looking at prioritizing the BRICS countries, which in itself is a good move from the Russians. Because you see, when I look at the geopolitics of Africa and I'm looking at our relationships as Africa with the United States and the UK, also look at the terrible relationship we have with France. I mean, we don't really need the French. And then we look at the history that we have with Russia. Russia helped us to attain our independence from the Europeans. Okay. And even now, when Russia is under siege from NATO forces, which is why Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, because from his point of view, he's seeing it as a security operation to secure Moscow from being destroyed by NATO. And I could believe Vladimir Putin on the fact that France is part of NATO. And France never loved Africa. And France has no good track record in Africa. It's terrible track record. So if France can do if seeing what France is doing to Africans, I am sure that they will do the same thing to the Soviet Union countries. And therefore Vladimir Putin is right to have this preemptive strike against NATO and invade Ukraine to keep himself secure. And as Africans, it is time for us now not to dump Vladimir Putin. And I'm happy that here in South Africa, we are not taking sides. We are actually non-aligned between the Americans and the Russians. President Ramaphosa and the South African government have said that we are not going to take any sides, which is actually a good position. Because as I've said in other videos, that it is not our war. Okay, it is a war between white people in Europe. And I know that they want us to be pro-Ukrainian, which for me, I am struggling to find out, to accept, why must I be pro-Ukraine? First of all, Ukrainians are racist against black people. Second, in that region, we're talking about France, which is extremely, it's got a terrible track record in Africa. Look at the African countries. All African countries that have been colonized by Britain are at a better pedestal now, and those that are suffering, like Zimbabwe, it is because of local entities, not of British entities, but the black people themselves, the black leaders themselves, oppressing their own black people. Well, that is prevalent all over Africa anyway, but you would see that where the British colonized, now there is a semblance of human dignity. Look at countries like South Africa, which is a democratic success, so to speak. I mean, things can be worse in Africa. In African standards, South Africa is doing very well, democratically and politically. Look at Botswana, we're doing well. Look at Namibia. It wasn't originally a British colony, but there is some influence from that region. And look at Zambia, Malawi. Malawi is terrible because of the Africans themselves. But then juxtapose that with countries that are colonized by France, none of them have survived. Okay, another British colonies, Nigeria and Ghana, doing well. But look at Mali, terrible. Niger, terrible. Sierra Leone, terrible. And the Guineas, the Guinea-Bissau and Guinea itself, terrible. And the capital city of France, which is doing better in Africa, is Cote d'Ivoire. Why? Because they are a conduit of French influence in that region to make sure that the Africans are oppressed. You see, the Francophone countries in Africa, we can safely say that they are still colonized by France. It was a lie that they were independent. I think that we should really cancel all those independent days, independent celebration in countries like Sudan, South Sudan, Chad, Niger, Sierra Leone, Mali, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Sierra Leone, Benin, and what's the other country? Togo. We must cancel all of those dates of independence because those countries are still under French imperialism. And French, I've realized that France is the number one enemy to Africa. You see, the British repented, the Netherlands repented, and the Portuguese repented. Every other European country repented, but not France. France is still destroying Africa. And just here next door in Mozambique, just a fresh start of French influence in Africa. The funny thing is, Mozambique was not even colonized by France, it was colonized by Portugal. But now there's a French company in Cabora, Bassa. And because of that, now there is pain in Mozambique. Wherever I hear the word French in Africa, I know there's going to be pain coming for the black people. Now the South African government is having a meeting with France. All I know that whatever is going to come out of that meeting is pain for black South African. Do not think that those French speaking with their stupid language, there's nothing romantic about the French language. Nothing romantic. It's very painful what they do to Africa. It's terribly painful. After that meeting, the only thing that's going to come out of it is trying to figure out ways of how to bring pain to black South Africans. Why? Because that is the modus operandi of the French. You can look at it up everywhere, all over Africa. Whenever there is a French involved, know very well that black people, they are suffering. And know also that there is natural resources that is sought after in the world. But it's only going to only going to benefit the French. I do believe now it is the time that Boris Johnson and the government in UK to step up against France and the influence and the negative influence of France in Africa. Because in Africa, as we're talking now, on the sidelines, there is a Commonwealth of Nations meeting in Kigali, hosted by Rwanda, and Prince Charles is there. You will see that the Commonwealth nations, former British colonies, are doing well. And you see that the European Union that wants to have a relationship with Africa, they seem not to address the elephant in the room in Africa, that Africa is partly still colonized by France. I suspect that the European Union itself benefits from France's imperialistic agenda in Africa. Maybe they enter to Africa through France. Who knows? Just last week, the king of Belgium visited the Congo, almost a week tour. That is actually, like, you could see that something important that he was here to do. In that week, he was in Congo. At the same time, there was war broke out between the M23 rebels in Congo against the government of Congo. And you would recognize that now Belgium being close to France, really, and you're wondering that now that they're speaking with the Congolese government, what kind of military aid will they bring to the Congolese government against the M23 rebels or whatever kind of instability in Congo? But you realize that the French, those guys, I put them together, the Belgians and the French, they're just one of the same brothers of the same mother. They thrive where there is war. they actually create war. I'm not saying that the Belgians created the war in DRC, but it's something to note that he came during the time when that war started and the Belgian king was there. And I would not know what is his influence, what is his take towards that. Because as a king of Europe and coming to meet a government that is struggling with insurgents in northern Kivu district, you would think that there would be some kind of a help there, because there is an urgent help that Congo needs, because Congo needs to be stabilized. But I do realize that these European entities are not interested in stabilization, but they are more interested in creating unstable environments for Black African villagers so that they can rape them physically. I mean, you can listen to that Dr. Mkwango, I think the guy who won the Nobel Peace Prize. They rape people and they rape their resources. So this is the legacy of the Europeans. And we know that these rebels are sponsored by elements that are from outside the African continent. And at the same time, we know that in the very same district of North Kivu, in the neighboring Uganda and Rwanda, there is a resource as well that they use in their iPhones and other smartphones, which really is necessary. I mean, what is the name of that resource? Is it cobalt? I'm not so certain right now. I'm not going to pin that. But what I'm saying is that when there is an essential raw material found in a specific region where the Black Africans are, you can be assured that a French company, okay, when it comes there, you can be assured that there is going to be war afterwards. There's going to be displacement of the villagers, number two. And there will be no accountability as to what happened to those resources. Okay. French, that is their legacy. They're doing it today. And really, the British government needs to check on its French counterparts to see that what they're doing in Africa is not right. And therefore, French cannot be destroyed by me. French people cannot be destroyed by me or the South African government or the poor African nations who are actually relying on the European Union itself. The French government is also to be stopped by the British government and the American government, who will have to see that what the French is doing is clearly a continuation of slavery. And this time is very, very evil, because in Mozambique they have got the so-called El Shabaab ISIS fighter. This is just nonsense. There's no ISIS in Mozambique, okay? Like the Muslims in Mozambique, there are very few, and really they're not jihadists. And most of the people there are Christians. Many of them are Catholic, and they've got no interest in jihadism. And even though we have had a long war between Renamo and Frelimo in Mozambique for so many years, it had its own I mean, it was based on other things except the oil in northern Mozambique. It had got to do with the old British Empire trying to keep hold of the Southern African region. Remember when Mozambique got its independence, and Rhodesia, which is now Zimbabwe, and the apartheid government in South Africa wanted to destabilize Mozambique, so they had Frelimo. So after that, well, as time went on, what I'm talking about, that era passed. We no longer have apartheid in South Africa. Rhodesia is no longer there. There's now Zimbabwe. So whatever war was there was between the local tribes of Mozambique. It was localized, but then over time it got finished. Okay, so this new war is just a manufactured thing in Mozambique. It's just manufactured by the French. Okay, manufactured by the French so that they can steal resources of Mozambique. And then now the British are watching, the Americans are watching and doing nothing. I do not know why, whether they fear the French or they benefit as well. It's either the British and the Americans benefit when the French benefit, or they fear the French. And now God does not fear the French. Now Vladimir Putin has been given the power to get into Ukraine. And not only is he going to stop into Ukraine, if France does not reform its ideology towards Africa, God will make sure that Vladimir Putin will march over the whole of Europe, because the only weapon that the African ancestors and the God of Africa have against France is the weapon in Moscow. It will be Moscow, not Chad. It will be Moscow, not people in Cabora, Bassa. It will be Vladimir Putin, not the poor people in northern Mali, in Timbuktu. No, it's going to be Moscow that is going to fly march over France and topple that statue there in Paris. Then the French will know that there is a God in heaven, and he watches every action of every man upon the earth. So to the French government and Emmanuel Macron, who was here during the parliamentary, there was a meeting in South Africa, remember last year, when the ministers of Africa were meeting, and there was a struggle about the leadership with the Francophone countries wanting to carry on leading Africa. And I remember Julius Malema and some other Zimbabwean legislators really making a noise that the Francophone countries cannot lead this African ministerial government forever. And I remember by that time, Emmanuel Macron came to South Africa during that time. Why? Because undercover, all of those Francophone countries, they are still colonized by France, but they're not putting it that way. So their colonial master, Emmanuel Macron, was here to make sure that they are in line. And Julius Malema makes noise. But then Julius Malema, I do not know whether he has not seen it that way, but he has not really framed it that France is still a colonizer in Africa. I would wish that Julius Malema will up the ante on talking about the fact that France still Francophone countries are still colonized by France, and the leaders of Francophone countries, they are under duress to do the will of France. To understand, which is got nothing to do with the interests of black Africans. So what Julius Nyerere started, Kwame Nkrumah started, of liberating Africa, still that vision has not yet been realized. As long as we have Francophone countries, it is important to note as well the French invasion and the colonization of Africa by France is very tactical, because now what we have is got this appearance of freedom whereby we have got black leaders in Francophone countries, yet this so-called political independence is just a mirage. It's not real, because when you look at the financial sector, these countries are still colonized by France financially, because they do not have a monetary independence at all. You see, many people do not know that this thing, and many people do not understand. Actually, I think it's a matter of not understanding. Many people do not understand monetary policy. They don't understand what a currency is and how currencies operate. In Francophone countries, the Central African countries, they use what they call Central African franc. It is a currency that is controlled by Paris. They control that currency. And those ones in the northwestern African countries, they use what they call is it the Western African franc? There's a Central African franc, And then there is another one. I think it's Western African. I don't know. I forgot, but it's something like that. It should be Western African franc and the Central African franc. Those two currencies are used in all those countries. They starting all the way from Cameroon, the countries around in Cameroon, Central Republic, turning left all the way to all the way towards Senegal. All of those countries, they're not independent when it comes to monetary policy. They don't have their own central banks. They use a currency that is controlled by France, and they have to bank in France, and France determines how they use money. Or in fact, they don't even have money. They are broke. That's why I'm saying that they are actually under heavy colonization, and well, one would say that, okay, so maybe, well, France thought that the running your own monetary thing is very sophisticated, so the French would have found it as a good thing to do it on behalf of the Africans. But if I do it on behalf of the Africans and they are poor, what is the purpose of monetary policy if you are not using them to improve the lives of the people? So, which means that poverty in Chad, really, in Sierra Leone, is in all those countries. It's not really because of France, even in Central African Republic, even in Congo and everywhere. It's not because of it's not because of the black African leaders, but it is because of the central bank of France, which controls the economy. I mean the monetary policy of these countries. You see, so you would want to create employment in a country. You want to provide government with funds for social development programs. You can quantitatively ease. You can use proceeds from the resources of the nations. Well, these nations are very rich. Talking about Sudan and South Sudan are very rich in oil. Understand? South Sudan is actually now richer than the Upper Sudan. But who benefits? Not the South Sudanese. You see, not them. To understand. So, Mali is rich in resources. Who benefits? The French. Everywhere is the French who benefit. And the people are suffering. And come talk to me. I'm not afraid of you, French people. They don't care. Please, don't even try to attack me because God will destroy you. Don't play. I'm not your friend. I really am not your friend. And I don't think that Cyril Ramaphosa should be busy entertaining those French who are here in South Africa for those South African French relations, because nothing good is going to come out of it except for suffering. Because everywhere where the French go in Africa, they're suffering. Show me a country in Africa. Show me one country. I challenge you. Show me one country in Africa where France is involved and black people are prosperous and they're happy. Show me one. There's nothing, not even one. Everywhere in Africa where a resource is found, the next thing is a French company comes. The next thing is war, and villagers in Africa are destroyed. Their lives are destroyed. Everywhere. Now, when they discover oil in Texas or somewhere in America, do they displace the farmers and villagers in Texas because of that? No. If they discover oil in California, will there be insurgents there that will arise? No. If they discover oil in Europe, does that happen? No. Why does it happen in Africa? Because the powers that be, because they believe that they are very powerful. Well, let me tell you something, France. This is what the Spirit of the Living God is saying to you. God is bigger than France. Okay? Now you have been abusing these poor women and children. I hear the Spirit of the Lord say, tell them, sir, because now that you have been abusing these women and children across Africa because you believe that there is no savior. Well, they worship Jesus. They don't drink blood like you do. They don't drink that demonic blood that like you do Satanists in France. They worship Christ. And because they worship Christ, God will avenge for the blood of all the people that the Belgian king, I hear the Spirit of the living God say, the Belgian king let to die 100 years ago in the Congo. Holy Israel, who now I'm in a prophetic mood. In the Republic of Congo, what the Belgian king led to happen over 100 years ago. Now I hear the Lord say, I will avenge the blood of those people that died in the Congo. Their blood did not die in vain. He says, even now it is a trap. He says that if you do not believe this prophet speaking, which is me, if you don't believe, the Spirit of the living God is saying to me that even today, son, there is people that are benefiting from, is it cobalt, that mineral that you are mining in North Kivu right now. The Lord said that it is a trap. It is a trap, and you shall see what's going to happen. Whoever is benefiting from North Kivu unfairly. I know most of you don't believe in me. Most of you think that I made from the false prophet. But anyway, what is going to be proven is this thing. The Lord is saying, whoever is benefiting from North Kivu unfairly. God say, I must make this clear. He's not saying that do not mine in the DRC. He is not saying that do not all mining companies should not come to DRC. No. He's not saying that. But he's saying that those that are benefiting unfairly and unjustly, those that are sponsoring rebels for the sake of destabilizing the Congo, I hear the Holy Ghost say, those that are doing that for the purposes of destabilizing the Congo. Okay. If the rebels are fighting their own war, because you see, not everything is either black or white. There is elements within the rebels that fights their own localized war within their own racial or tribal wars. And then there is another element that is foreign based, that is interested in destabilizing for the sake of personal gain or for the shareholders of those companies. That's what the Spirit of the living God is saying. He says, I will forgive the tribal wars in the Congo. I hear the Lord say that. I will forgive the tribal wars in the Congo because they have got valid grievances for them to pick up arms. Holy is the judgment of the Lord. Let me just be clear again. The Lord is saying to me, I will forgive the tribal wars in the Congo because they have got valid tribal reasons for taking up arms. Even holy. However, the sin is on the entities that are outside forces that after they have come to mine. Okay. And God said that there's nothing wrong with mining in the Congo. Even if you are a foreign entity, you can come to Congo and mine. It is okay. But now we want to want to make separate between the bone and marrow, separate between the goat and the sheep. However, those that come in there with the intention of destabilizing the region for the sake of getting cheaper resources, manipulating the funds. I hear the Lord say, manipulating the funds. I do not know what that means, but I hear the Lord say, to manipulate the funds. You are manipulating the funds and changing figures. I see some kind of like figures being changed. Figures being changed. I think it's either the monetary value or the quantity, or both. The quantity of resources mined is underreported. There is an underreporting of resources that are mined in North Kivu and in the regions in the Congo, and the head that will say even outside Congo, son, even in the region within the southern, within the Central African region, there is a lot of undercounting. Yes, Lord. He says there's an undercounting. You do not count in it. under accounting of the resources that you're taking out. These are the people, these are the miners, which means that these are the people that are directly involved in mining. And because of the wars, they are benefiting from these wars because they will take out more and underreport. So to make it look as if there's very little that is mined, but there's a lot that is mined. So they underreport. I'm sure when they're underreporting, it's because they are stealing from the government, from the people, and also from within the companies. Okay, they are stealing even inside the company. People who work for the company steal from the company so that even the shareholders themselves actually do not get the full extent of the profits that are generated from these conflict zones. So even I hear that say that you might blame the bookkeepers in London. I hear that say that even the bookkeepers in London, they do not know of the amount of gold or diamonds or whatever resources that are mined in the Congo. Whatever they are told. Remember, these guys are sitting in an office in London. They're not physically in the Congo. So the Lord is saying that they also do not even know. They are told figures that are fudged, figures that are wrong. I hear the Spirit of God say. You see that suitcase that has got numbers. Lord, by your week, you've got a number to open. Yeah, I hear that. I see the Lord give me that picture of someone moving those numbers, maybe from 6 to 2 or from 7 to 1. Just to make it look like very late undercounting. So he's saying that even the companies themselves, like maybe Total or Glencore or whatever it is, the companies that are mining, he's saying that themselves they are actually being cheated. Themselves, there is a massive accounting scandal. So it means if you think that I'm a false prophet, if you think I'm a false prophet, God is going to prove to you when the scandal is going to come out in the future. There's a massive accounting scandal. And it's not an accounting scandal as in the accountants writing wrong things. No. It's a scandal as in the accountants being told lies. The one that is sitting in London, why the Lord is keeping on talking about London, I think these people are actually based in London. There is companies that are headquartered in London. I hear the Lord say they are mining companies and they have got their accountants or accounting firms or they report to London, something like that. But the Lord is showing me that whatever is happening in the Congo, London is not aware of it. And there's a massive stealing within the people that work in those companies. He said that most of this evil is perpetrated not by the board of directors of a company per se. They don't have a meeting. Let's go and do this evil in the Congo. But the Lord is showing me that there is people within the companies, individuals, and they can have networks of individuals within the companies that would actually be doing sort of stealing from the company itself, such that the company doesn't even know. So that maybe the CEO of Total, maybe, or the CEO of ExxonMobil or ConocoPhillips or Barclays Bank or whoever. And of course, the banks are involved in these things, or what other banks do you have? Or the city banks, these big American banks, So, God is showing me that he said that even yes, Lord, I hear the Lord say that even the regulators in London, because London is a financial hub, even the regulators, I hear the Lord say that even the regulators in London do not know of it. He says that the Lord said that what they know about is hearsay. They hear it in the wind that there is something like this going on in Africa. They hear it as a hearsay, but they've got no evidence. They can suspect people within the company that are doing things, but they've got no evidence. Board chairman. I hear the Lord say that some of them are actually board chairmen, but the board will not be aware of it. Board chairman. board chairman of a very big bank. I hear that will say, I will expose the board chairman of a very big financial institution that has got its offices in London. I don't know if it's a British institution, but they have got some kind of a corporate oversight in London. I hear that will say that he is going to expose the board chairman and other board members or executive members in some companies that are based in New York as well. I hear that will say even in New York. He says that it is an extensive global mandate. They've got a global mandate. It's like a group of thieves within corporate structures. Even though global corporates have got strong, good governance or good corporate governance models or standards, slowly showing me that there is these people within these corporates that actually are undermining those standards. And they're individuals. God is showing me that they're individuals and they are a team that work and they know each other. Not only within that one company, but with other companies. They know other individuals in similar companies. Let's just say it's a bank. They will know other individuals in other banks or competing banks. And these individuals come together and do this crime without the board or the board or the leadership of the companies being aware of it. So it baffles those that are in London, New York, to like, so what is going on? To what extent is the scandal? So God is showing me that no, even these accountants do not know. I suppose there is some mismanagement that is, or some shenanigans done by some boards maybe. But I'm not going to verify that. But what I can verify is, prophetically speaking, is that I hear the Lord say that these people do it without the approval of the board. If you to look at the board meetings and the minutes, there will be nothing that says let's go to Cabora, Bassa and kill Mozambicans. Okay, so that we can get this thing at a cheaper price. No, God is saying that these individuals outside the province of corporate structures who are themselves part of that corporate structure, who will be involved in these things because they know that what they will benefit, personal benefit. God is showing that there is personal benefit. So when they meet up with other individuals from other, maybe from governments, okay, maybe it's government ministers or it's people in military personnel, they will do these operations for personal benefit, for personal glory, self-enrichment. So I hear the Lord say that you might think that it is the enrichment of the shareholders of ConocoPhillips or the shareholders of ExxonMobil or Shell or Total. But you see that an ordinary person who has got shares in Shell will not benefit much because the reported profit will be very much less than what it should be, and it's not even the fault of the accountants. It's not like the accountants are cooking the books. God is showing me that in this way, it's not about books being cooked. Okay, it's about those that actually account being lied to. It's physical goods being stolen in companies and not being accounted for. Because how can you account for gas? If we're extracting gas, how can you account for how much gas did we extract today? So like we can go back inside and say how much gas is left. I don't think you can actually account that on a daily basis. So or how can you account for crude oil? I'm sure you can say, oh, this week there was no operation because of insurgent activities. Yet during that whole week, you were pumping out oil and selling in the black market. Do you understand? Especially times like this, where oil prices are so high. Especially at times like this, in the northern Congo. I feel like these things are they're exacerbated by the fact that there is these evil people within these companies that actually participate in these nefarious activities that lead to that individuals will suffer. Therefore, it means that the FBI and the CIAs must be involved. So now, as a prophet, I'm actually giving some evidence, prophetic evidence. I do not know whether you believe it or not, but you don't really have to be spiritual to believe me. You just have to take what I'm saying and run with it and look into it. If you're FBI and you're at the Pentagon and you are looking into this thing, therefore know very well that if you're going to go to New York or to London, you are not going to find evidence because it's not there. Okay, the evidence is on the ground. That's what the Lord is showing me. So you don't have to believe prophets or not. You just have to go to the ground and see first-hand accounts, first-hand experience. Get cameras there, get evidence, people talking or people confessing or whatever. Then you are going to see this evil that is perpetrated in Africa. So now I say that this evil in Africa, God is now beginning to show me. He's now beginning. It's like he's vindicating some of these French companies that I hate personally. Okay, but thank God for the Holy Spirit. He vindicates them to me to say that okay, maybe Sun Total is not as evil as you think as a company, but individuals within Total are involved in nefarious activities that will taint the name of the company and also taint the name of the nation of France. Because I feel like if Emmanuel Macron is really serious, him and the people that back him up, if he is really serious about integrity and leading down on a global stage, they have to be serious about fighting these activities, because these activities do not benefit the French people. Okay, they don't benefit the French government, they don't benefit the French companies or shareholders in French companies, but benefit individuals that use the French name, that use the French government, that use French institutions and French companies and French colonies to entrench slavery and creating opportunities for gangsters, terrorists. I must say, these are actually political and economic terrorists. These are economic hitmen that are benefiting on an individual level. So they are not doing this terrorism for the sake of country. This is what the Lord is clarifying. That they do not do these terrorist activities so that France can benefit. But you see, blame will go to France, not to them. But if they succeed, the proceeds go to them personally and not to France. Okay, blame will go to the French government to what we visibly see. We visibly see Africans suffering, women being raped, and we blame the French government. We visibly see the franc currency being used in francophone countries. And as I said earlier on, if a French academic will say that maybe it's too difficult for the Africans to take over monetary policy, so the French would do it on their behalf. Yet in the process, there's individuals in the banking sector who will benefit. But then when the evidence of suffering and stuff like that is exposed, the blame will go to the French government, to go to the French central bank. So the French government, if they are serious about this thing, they need to listen to me and really look into the individuals. And the way you do it is to go to the physical places, because the corruption is done at a physical location, which is Cabora, Bassa, which is North Kivu, okay, which is North Mali, okay, which is Chad, which is Central African Republic, which is South Sudan. All right. Offshore fields, which is Niger Delta. Okay. Guinea, Equatorial Guinea. In the physical evidence that will incriminate individuals. Okay. Individuals. Not just companies, because you see the problem with incriminating corporations is that corporations will pay fines, but essentially who is paying that fine? It's the shareholder. It's not the criminals. You can say, oh yeah, Shell paid 2 billion fine. To who does the fine go to? Well, of course, yes, it goes to the government, which is the people, but the shareholders are paying for something that the shareholders did not do. One. Number two, for something that the shareholders will not benefit from or did not even benefit from, because all of these things are done by individuals. These are brown envelopes we're talking about. We're talking about resources of even the company being siphoned off, and once it is found out, it is the shareholders that pay. So it calls on the shareholders of Total, of Shell, of ExxonMobil, of Glencore, of these other big mining firms. What are they? They're not coming to mind now. Let me open the channel that loves them a lot. Well, Rio Tinto. Who else is there? Ashanti Gold Mine Fields. All these other companies that are involved in all of these things. So their shareholders should now understand that they lose billions. The shareholders themselves, they lose billions because of these scandals. They lose billions because, after all, let's talk about Cabora Bassa, for example, in Mozambique. Some of the natural gas that is siphoned off there and not recorded in accounting, in the company's accounting procedures. Is it not shareholders that contributed for that gas thing, that infrastructure to be set up? Is it not the shareholders' money? But when the gas is stolen, from who are they stealing from? Is it not the shareholders? So when we talk about these insurgents, these so-called ISIL forces, I mean, that's just a lie. There's no ISIL forces in Mozambique, man. Come on. I'm from Zimbabwe. Mozambique is next door. There's nothing like that. It's just a stupid lie. Okay. So if they come there, this is fake ISIL forces, which are not ISIL forces at all. And whatever politics happens, you don't think that the shareholders benefit. What God is clarifying to me is that the shareholders do not benefit from that. In fact, the shareholders lose, because what is being stolen is production that is meant to be recorded, that is meant to benefit the shareholders. But once this scandal comes out, you will see that it is companies that are made to pay fines. Yet the companies will take the money from the shareholders to pay the fine. It's not going to be taking the money from the guys who stole for personal benefit. They will not raid their secret bank accounts in secret territories. Like, I don't know where they keep their money these days, or in what are these countries? They've got these safe havens wherever it is. I don't know where they are. These offshore accounts. They are not gonna go and raid the offshore accounts of these individuals that work for these multinational corporations and contribute towards the fine that the corporation is paying. No. It's going to be the shareholders again. So the shareholders lose two times. The shareholders lose when these thieves steal from the companies. Number two, when the thievery is discovered, the shareholders lose because when the company pays a fine, it is actually money that was going to be dividends for shareholders. So there's a double impact loss on shareholders themselves. Therefore, the onus is on the shareholders. You see, to understand where we are coming from, where I'm coming from. So I am not against the shareholders. I'm not the shareholders' enemy. Understand? I'm the friend of the shareholders. So it is the shareholders of Total, the shareholders of Shell, the shareholders of all these mining firms, these oil giants, who need now to strategically create a secure environment in the physical places where their businesses operate. To understand, they need now to understand they now need to have their people there who will supervise the supervisors. So the supervisors need to be supervised, because if the supervisors are not supervised, when they come to Africa, they steal from the shareholders, and when they are caught, it is the shareholders who pay for it. Okay. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Ngobali Zondo. We're gonna catch you on the next one.